Let's take a look at the audio effects package for your Casablanca video editor. The audio effects pack is a comprehensive collection of different audio filters that can be applied to different audio samples. In order to use the audio effects package, you must be running version 2.5 or above. We do recommend that you are working on SmartEdit 4 or above so that you have the pre-listen function back in your audio record section. This allows you to listen to the sample before you create it. If you have version SmartEdit 2.5 or SmartEdit 3, then you'll actually have to hit OK to build your sample in order to hear those changes. Let's go over and find those sample changes back here in the Audio Record Edit menu. You'll see here we have a list of different samples of audio that have been preloaded in here for this demo. Some are a little campy, but for the demonstration purpose, we'll give you an idea of how one of these particular samples might apply to one of your filters. First of all, you do of course have to load in your audio, and you would load it in either via microphone, front or rear jacks, DV if you were using a DV input from maybe a DV camcorder and the shotgun microphone on the camera, or if you were coming in with CD. Once the samples are loaded into the sample bin here for audio, it's just like working with video scenes in your video scene bin, is that you can use the special button to apply a filter change. So to find some of the effects from Audio Effects Pack, let's click on Special. The filters that come with the Audio Effects Pack can kind of be broken down into two parts. You can either have filters that are primarily used for sound correction or sound improvement, or you can use filters that might be used for more creative sound design or redesigning an audio sample. Right now we have what's kind of a decluttering tool here listing all of the current filters in Special if you have all the audio programs activated. Then you can see where you have volume sliders and volume left or right, and these come with the SmartEdit software. In order to focus on the Audio Effects Pack, I'd recommend to just come down here and set this to Audio Effects Package. You should be running version 1.1a at the time of this production. The list alphabetically will now be limited to just filters that come with the Audio Effects Pack. This makes it a little easier to test out and try some of these filters so you can see what it does to your samples. Whenever you choose one of the particular filters, over on the right side, it will give you sliders or commands that are based on changes or adjustments that can be made when you use this filter. Now there is only an I button here for these different filters, and the manual for it is basically a copy printout, a PDF download that you can get off of our website that basically repeats what's in the I button. I highly recommend that anytime you choose one of these filters, click on the I button and then go to the page that has that particular filter listed. This will give you information such as what the filter sliders will do for you, as in intensity here under chorus is how strong an influence the effect will have. So we can actually use information here in I to tell you what these sliders are going to do. Now I'm going to go through a handful of these filters here today just to give you an idea of what some of the ones might do for you. We're not going to cover all of these, mainly because this is a program of experimentation. I highly recommend that when you try this program out, to use this pre-listen feature that came since SmartEdit 4. Basically what this does is, based on the sample you have selected in your audio record bin, when you go to Special, when you choose one of these filters, if pre-listen is set to choose off, you won't hear anything. If you choose to go to original,
wow, where are we?
It's actually going to play a loop of the sample that you had highlighted in its original sound. If you choose effect,
wow, where are we?
It'll actually do what you have set for your filters and apply that to that sound that you hear that loops over and over again. That way you can actually listen to what this filter does before you spend any time clicking OK to build it. Certainly important when you have samples in the bin that might start getting into the minutes or maybe in the hours. You might want to use the trim button to trim some of your samples down to shorter lengths if you're forced to build those in the earlier SmartEdit versions by clicking OK. But here we have the pre-listen filter, and this is what we're going to use in our demo here while we're going through a few of the filters. Now let's take a look at a few of these here. We're going to start out with one called Delay. Now delay is going to be one of the options that we have several listed in Audio Effects that might be identified with this little icon for echo, indicating it's more than likely going to apply an echo effect to your sample. And the delay is basically adding rhythmical echoes to your sound. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn the pre-listen from off to effect.
Wow, where are we?
You can hear how it gives that long delay sound for it. Each one of these filters will have a different application of how strong the influence of the effect will be, how quickly the echoes will become quieter, and maybe the time that elapses between echoes with a delay here. If you want to hear the original, switch your pre-listen to original.
Wow, where are we?
And then try seeing what it sounds like with your loop, with the effect.
Wow, where are we?
See how it has that big difference here and gives you a delay or an echo? A really nice way to apply an echo effect to a particular sound sample. We also have the general echo, and you can see that there are more filter sliders here. There are several filters that you have the echo effect on. It again is an area where you might want to experiment. Filter is actually one of the adjustments that you can actually use to improve an audio sample. And before I exit out of the special bin to change my sample that I wish to use, one thing to note is that if I hit cancel, it'll revert back to whatever was last set here as your sample filter that you were using. If I hit OK to build this, that will get loaded in as the last default filter, so when you return back into special, that's where it'll be. So I'm going to click on cancel, and I'm going to choose my next sample in the bin here, which is a little audio introduction.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild Wild World of Mountain Scenery.
So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to go in here to special. You can see it defaulted back to where we last were there, up at chorus. And I'm going to choose filter. Now with filter selected, we can choose original, and what I'm going to use the filter to do is kind of improve the sound of that sample for the introduction. There's a little background noise on that sample, and we're going to use the filter to try and clean that up. So I'm going to switch this back to original so we can kind of listen to that.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild Wild World of Mountain Scenery. I'm your host, Bubba Rero.
It's kind of hard to hear, but you're actually going to hear a little bit of noise from the background during the voiceover. And we're going to use this filter to kind of clean it up. It basically gives you adjustments to adjust the frequency and some filtering to make it cleaned up in the background. So I'm going to leave this intensity set around a high 70%, leave this set to its default, and choose effect.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild Wild World of Mountain Scenery.
There's still a little bit of noise here, so I'm actually going to switch this to low pass.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild Wild World of Mountain Scenery. I'm your host, Bubba Rero.
Hear how that cleans that up considerably? Now we actually have a little bit of a better sound because we applied a filter. It has a little bit of that less general background noise that you might have picked up during your voiceover. Flanger is actually going to give you a little bit of a lively variation to the sound. It's probably going to sound more like aliens. We'll switch this to pre-listen.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild Wild World of Mountain Scenery. I'm your host, Bubba Rero.
So you can hear that really manipulates the sound there, using kind of an echo filter to give it a completely different pitch and different adjustment to it. Hall is also another type of kind of echo effect that you can use. And if you wanted to apply one of these filters, you could always just hit OK. It will build a copy of your sample that you were working on with the new filter change below it and identify it as an SP. So I didn't want to do this one. I'm actually going to come back up here to the wow one here.
Wow, where are we?
And go back in here under special, and there's Hall. As you can see, it defaulted because we hit OK to close special last time. And this is a really good one for a real general type of echo, as if you're in one of these type of rooms or chambers. This cathedral's a real nice one. I'm going to switch this to effect.
Wow, where are we? Wow, where are we?
You can hear that. That's going to loop over and over again, so you can kind of hear the adjustments. I'm going to switch the pre-listen off every time we try and do these so we can kind of hear a little bit more clearly when I'm giving you information and the sound doesn't interrupt. Let's choose a couple of others here. There's a choice here for harmonic, and under harmonic, go back here to special and choose harmonic. This is basically going to make it sound like the recording is trying to sing. So I can switch this to effect.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild Wild World of Mountain Scenery. I'm your host, Bubba Rero.
Several tone controls here so you can adjust and give it some different types of tones.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild Wild World.
or you can make some more adjustments here to the chord. It's a really neat way to kind of make some kind of sounds appear to have more of a harmonic sound to it instead of just your general talking. There are a few of these that are more correction tools here. We've got maximum volume. This is basically going to increase the sound to a maximum volume without causing any distortion. There's actually two rendering processes. There's actually a first rendering process where the recording is checked to make sure there's sufficient area for the changes to be made. And then there's also an amplification that goes during the second rendering process. You'll notice that there are no settings over here. It's just trying to make your sample go as loud as it can go without overmodulating. Noise gate is one that kind of fades out quiet parts of the recording. This can be used to fade out the volume of a background noise that can be heard between pauses during a spoken speech or recording. This is one, again, more experimentation and specific audio samples to manipulate. Again, just all you want to do is adjust your sliders, turn your effect on, and then adjust the slider again and left click so that way you can hear the changes again when it re-loops. Normalize one is, this is one that folks that use to try to set several sounds to a particular absolute level. It uses the same processing steps of double rendering for the maximum volume. This is one that I would use with a little more care. If you're trying to render a whole video sample that has different audio levels that go up and down, and you all want to try to make it have the same level, this is one that I don't think is going to do a great job of doing it. It's one you're going to want to experiment with. You're best to split a scene up and do your audio manually in the audio mix window, and then try to apply this filter maybe in certain areas. If you render it across all of it, it may try to bump certain areas up, but it's not going to make them all exactly the same volume level, mainly based on different levels in your original recordings. Again, experimentation here. Pitch shift, this is a really interesting one. I'm going to come back out here to my options here, and here's an interview that we had with somebody.
Well, this happened back in 1967. We were all standing on the cliff.
You can see something probably bad happened here. In this interviewee does not want you to broadcast their original voice so they don't get identified. Here in Special, there's a filter called Pitch Shift. And using Pitch Shift, you can use this to kind of mask or change the pitch volume or pitch changes in your sound sample. So now I'll choose Pre-Listen and switch this to Effect.
Well, this happened back in 1967. We were all standing on the cliff.
That kind of changes the whole pitch of the sample you were listening to, so it's very difficult to identify the original sound. Very nice manipulation tool. A couple of these other sound samples like radio and retro, these are good ones if you're trying to make a sound that makes it sound like it's coming from an old record player.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild, Wild World of Mountain Scenery. Hi, and welcome to another edition.
This one you can really hear the noise sound. You can actually even make it have that noise sway like on the old record players.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild, Wild World of Mountain Scenery. I'm your host.
Hear how it has that sway or that rolling around like the old record players playing around? It's a nice little filter change that basically redesigns your sound. Here's another one of the filter changes, reverb. It's just like one of the echoes. This one's more of a simpler option than the Hall or some of the other echo ones. It's actually going to render a little quicker for you. Again, use your I button to give you an idea of what the different sliders like level, decay, and delay are going to do for you. The speed option here, this is a funny one. We'll come back out here and we'll choose this sound sample.
Hey, what's going on there, guys?
And we've got a little somebody yelling out, hey, what's going on there? And speed is actually going to change the pitch as you adjust the factor level here. So this is what's going to be used if you wanted to make something sound like it was in slow motion.
Hey, what's going on there, guy? Hey, what's going on there?
Or if you did it on the opposite end of the spectrum, you probably know where this is going, so you might sound like the Chipmunks.
Hey, what's going on there, guys?
So a great way to speed up or slow down your sound samples. There's some other sound sample filters here that have like a sway where they basically take highs and lows and kind of make a change of kind of a waveform with your sound samples. Those are ones, again, that certain aspects might be used, maybe a situation of like someone under a helicopter, things that have the sound changing over and over based on something that might be changing in the environment. Here's another one that's kind of popular, the telephone. Here's a sound sample.
Hey John, this is Justin, just calling to check and see what's going on there with you.
And we're going to go in here to Special, and we'll come down here to Telephony. And this is going to make it sound like the other person is on the other end of a telephone.
Hey John, this is Justin, just calling to check and see what's going on there with you.
And you can choose a different type of sound sample here for mobile, current, or ancient, but it's going to make it sound like the sound is coming across the telephone line. These time change and time stretch are really nice ones here too. These actually adjust the length of your sample, making it faster or slower without adjusting the pitch. So in this case, I'm going to come out here, and here's a little ad sample.
Only on East Morton in Jacksonville.
And I'm going to go up here into Special and come down here to Time Stretch. You've probably heard in commercials on radios or TVs where a lot of information has to be told, things that they might want to get across rather quickly, but they want to have the same pitch to the sound. So without having that slow motion of the chipmunk sound, we can use Time Stretch for this. So with this Time Stretch, if I click on Effect,
Only on East Morton in Jacksonville.
you can hear how it sped up the sound. You can do it a little slower too.
Only on East Morton in Jacksonville.
So that pitch isn't changing, but you're actually speeding it up, so information comes across more rapidly.
Only on East Morton in Jacksonville.
Kind of how that information gets across real quickly that they might not want you to hear. Tone control, this is one that might be another one of the ones that does an improvement for you. Let's go back again and choose our intro ad.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of
And go back into Special. And what we're going to do is give it more of a tone adjustment. So this sounds a little more clean, more like it's a radio sound. Come in here and adjust your sliders, the lows, the mids, and the highs, and choose your effect pre-listen. Again, experiment. Choose your effect on here for pre-listen, and then adjust one of the sliders. Let's say I come down here to low,
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's
and I really don't like that, and I'll bump the low back up to this 8.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild Wild World of Mountain Scenery. I'm your host, Bubba Rero.
Hear how that sound changed, a totally different tone based on your adjustments to the low, the mids, and the highs? This is going to really be a nice way to clean up some sound for you, kind of improve it, and also a little bit of redesign. You're going to see some more of these options here too for adjusting some of those highs and lows with kind of a waveform, and I'll hit a effect here.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of America's Wild Wild World of Mountain Scenery. I'm your host, Bubba.
Hear how it kind of has that waveform. You kind of have sound moving and changing, but it also is actually adjusting the pitch here as well. So definitely some ways to redesign some of these sound samples when you're using kind of things like the vibratos based on a waveform frequency. Again, the best thing I can recommend for using this program is load in some sound samples, kind of some generic ones like an introduction or a voiceover. Put it in there, and then come up into your Special, set up the audio effects filters, and then go down and experiment. Just highlight a particular filter here, use your pre-listen. This isn't going to take any energy off of your machine. Try making some adjustments. Get an idea of what these different filters are going to do for you based on some of the ones we've demoed here for you today as examples, or based on information that you find on the I button of what that particular filter will do for you and what the volume sliders will make as an adjustment. It's a really powerful program, and certainly the first one we've had for the Casablanca that allows you to do new filter changes for improvements and redesigns of your audio samples.